We'll just confirm that the meeting is live streaming. If you bear with me one moment. Okay, Chair, over to yourself. Chair, you're on mute.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Community Liaison Committee, Thursday, the 18th of January 2024. I'm Councillor Sally Hanks, and I'm chairing the meeting tonight. Before we start this meeting, can I remind everyone present that this meeting will be recorded via the internet and archived for future viewing. Could all participants please mute themselves when not speaking? If a participant wishes to speak, please use the raised hand function, or if I can see your hand, then that would be okay. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function. If any participant has difficulty hearing or being heard when they're addressing the committee, then they should let the chairman or democratic officer know. If they have a webcam, then they should try turning this off, as this will help. Can I then pass you back to Amy, as this is a new system for all of us, and especially town and community reps. Amy was wanting a little word first. Amy.
Thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate a few moments of the committee's time. Good evening all. For those who I've not met before, my name's Amy Rudman. I'm the Democratic and Scrutiny Services Officer who supports the committee. This evening is an entirely remote committee, so all participants are remote. And connecting from multiple locations. Please bear with us as we go through this evening if there are any technical issues we need to overcome. As the Chair has mentioned, this is our first meeting on the Easy Conference Connect platform. If you do need to raise the attention of myself or my colleague Gareth Davis, who is also with me today as technical support, please could participants use the chat function by messaging the ICT support or the DSSO admin via the chat function. If you wish to participate in an item this evening, please could you press the raise hand button, which is on the left-hand side of your main activation button in the bottom centre of your screen. You will then appear in list order for the chair, who will invite you in accordingly. Please, when the chair invites you in, could you then press your activation button in the centre of your screen so that you appear on screen. When you are active and being heard by the committee, you will be highlighted in red. Your large activation button will be highlighted in red. So just to reiterate, please could you not press your activation button until you are addressed to join by the chair. Thank you, Chair. That was all the points from myself. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. If we move on then to agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I don't have any apologies. Amy, would you have any apologies, please?
Yes, Chair, I do have some apologies. From Vale of Glamorgan elected members, apologies have been received from Councillor Campbell, Councillor Haynes and Councillor Rees-Thomas. From the Town and Community Council, apologies have been received from Councillor Morris from Colwinston, and Colwinston is represented this evening by Councillor Hadley. Apologies also received from Councillor Hatton from Dinas Powys Community Council, so the council is represented by Councillor Phillips this evening. Apologies also received from Councillor Julie Sykes. I can see that Julie is connected to the meeting, so I would be very grateful if she could confirm that that is herself connected, or whether Councillor Hammond has connected on Julie's link connection. Are we able to do that now, please, for the sake of the recording? So the individual who's connected via Julie Sykes, would you be able to come on screen, please? If you wouldn't mind coming off screen, Chair, just momentarily. Can you click? Can you click Julie Sykes one for me, please? Hello, good evening, Julie. Councillor Sykes, could you come on screen for us, please, by the large activation button? Hello, hello. I'm just confirming that it was yourself who's joined us this evening, because I did originally have your apologies. So
I couldn't attend.
That's okay. We'll mark you as present for this evening for the minutes. Thank you very much. Carrying on with the apologies, Chair. Apologies are also received from Councillor Toker from St Athan Community Council. And also the Councillor Thomas from Welsh St Donat's Community Council. That concludes the apologies from myself, Chair, but I do note that Councillor Perks has her hand raised.
Thank you. Councillor Perks, would you like to come in?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to give Councillor Ian Buckley's apologies, please. Thank
you, Councillor. Okay, and I've got a hand up for Councillor Julie Sykes. Is that a historic hand or? Yeah, there we go. All right, so agenda item 1, apologies, and I have noted that some of you have to leave early as well, so thank you for letting us know. Agenda item 2 is minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of October 2023. If there are some Vale of Glamorgan members who would like to propose and second these minutes, please.
I'm happy to propose. Sorry, I'm happy to propose them.
Thank you very much. And can I have a seconder, please? And Councillor Perks. Thank you very much.
All right.
And moving on to agenda item 3, do we have any declarations of interest this evening, please? I don't see any yellow hands up, so I take it there are no declarations of interest. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to agenda item 4, we have South Wales Police Services, a verbal update from Inspector Gareth Childs. Gareth, are you there? Would you like to come in? Good evening.
Good evening, Nasratha. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Fantastic, okay. Yeah, if I'm ready, Chair, I'll give the update, providing you're happy.
Yes, go ahead.
Right, I'll give the updates over the festive season in terms of some community initiatives we've done with the local neighbourhood policing teams in Barry and also the Vale of Glamorgan. Some crime initiatives, some arrests that have taken place, and some community initiatives as well. And I'll go through them one by one. First of all, what we've got just in the festive season. Credit goes to Police Community Support Officer Ashley Beckett. So she's managed to secure funding in the Christmas period, which was left over from an operation we run, Operation Bang, and the Halloween period. Some funding was left over, and she's purchased en masse a number of boxes of chocolates and biscuits, and then got together with local school children and managed to get round and visit over 40 care homes in Barry and the wider Vale as well. So to the delight of some of the elderly residents there, they turned up with chocolates and biscuits, sang a few carols, and helped the residents in those care homes. So it was a good initiative by Ashley Beckett who organised that, so I'm grateful to her. Another operation we've run in Halton Road in Barry, Operation Stopwatch. This is an annual operation which we run, and it's mainly targeting shoplifting in the Christmas period, but a successful operation where we managed to catch some shoplifters, but also as well we were in the area doing some proactive patrols, and we were close when a robbery was reported. A local individual who was well known to us, a local individual whose name is Levi Acti, and he was arrested for robbery, caught not far from the scene where he was reported. A serious offence where the victim was punched to the head, and attempts were made to steal a scooter from the victim. So he came into custody and he's currently on bail for that matter. He was also found in possession of a knife as well. So there are some serious offences and some serious investigation that is ongoing in relation to that. MPT as well, credit to Sergeant Jake Rolneck. He's been tasked with trying to find an outstanding suspect for a very stressful and difficult domestic violence matter. And through work within the community, work with various persons, we managed to track the individual down, whose name is Tristan Williams, and he was arrested for GBH, grievous bodily harm offence, domestic related and sexual offences, and that person has been charged and is currently on remand in custody. And we've also, community initiatives have taken place. We've also got involved in turning the Christmas lights on in Barry. That was a successful community initiative where there was a light show that took place in Central Park, and also some food and drink stalls were set up together with some fairground rides as well. So again, the neighbourhood policing team took part in that activity, and that was run successfully. Also in the Barry area, we've been involved in some engagements with the school. Local police community support officers have attended Oakfield Primary School, and we've run a speed awareness initiative there where the young school children helped us with the portable handheld devices. They got out and police some of the streets with us and help us keep those streets safe surrounding the schools. And it was a bit of an engagement opportunity for local police officers together with the police community support officers and the school children to take place. So other initiatives, we move over to the Vale. Other initiatives have been taking place in the Vale. I've spoken about this on the last meeting that we had. It's a successful operation that's running with a number of agencies involved, including the NHS, the Coast Guard, ambulance service, fire service, and it's mainly a project that's run on the Vale coastline, which runs from Ogmore by Sea to Nash Point, a 25-mile coastline. And we've managed to secure funding where we've put up 25 sites there that have the what three words signs there, which is mainly, as I say, directed at persons who come into difficulty. We've had a number of tragic cases over the years where persons who have suicidal tendencies have gone to the coastline there. Some tragic consequences on occasions where persons have committed suicide. But on many occasions, persons have rung whilst in distress and asked for help. And we've had difficulty in the years gone by of trying to locate those individuals in such a substantial area, particularly when it's dark at night. And even when we got the helicopter up, police officers out and about, ambulance service involved, we've had difficulty locating persons, and at times it's taken us a number of hours before we've managed to get to particular individuals who are in distress. So this is an initiative that highlights 25 areas on the coastline there. We can direct people to those areas. And once we get those what three words, we can direct our resources to specific locations and go and safeguard and support individuals there. There's going to be a lot of press in relation to it. A well-known TV personality, Ruth Dodsworth is involved in the project at present, and she's keen to run a piece on it in the coming weeks, which will be run on ITV. We're obviously mindful of we're not going to be promoting what exactly the cause is, because we need to be mindful of we don't want to attract persons to the area who are in distress. But it's mainly going to be a safety initiative there, where we're encouraging people to come to the coastline, encouraging how safe it is, and for families to get out and about and walk, get the fresh air. It'll be presented in a positive light, but mainly trying to get the use of the 25 locations across and the successful initiative that's been put in place. So that's going to take place in the coming weeks. Okay, we've had a number of emails been sent in to us praising the work the worth and value of Steve Davis, who I know very well, who's one of the police community support officers, and his ward is Cowbridge. Well-known individual, very enthusiastic chap. He's done a lot of good work with South Wales listeners. It's a new initiative we have, where we're trying to encourage the public to sign up to South Wales listeners, tell us about any problems they have in the area, and create those necessary conversations and solution problems. Steve has done very well. Steve Davis has done very well as Welsh speaker, and he's built a lot of inroads in the community of Cowbridge, and he's very well respected. And we've had a number of positive emails being sent in to us. And I've recently done the Remembrance Days and spoke to a number of persons in the area of Cowbridge, and again, they've sung his praises there. So he's doing a lot of good work, Steve. Okay, if we move on to other incidents that have taken place, credit to the neighbourhood policing team at Lampwood Major. There was a gentleman who turned up only recently, a couple of weeks back, and he was in distress, and he was having a heart attack at the time. They managed to perform CPR on him and managed to get hold of the ambulance service as well. And that person was taken into hospital to conveyed then to the Prince of Wales Hospital, where he underwent surgery there. So it was a lot of good work done by the neighbourhood policing team there, some quick initiative there, and we had the necessary thanks and praise from his wife and wider family of the individual. His name is Stephen Roberts, so it's nice to hear that he's recovering from his surgery. So a good news story there. Credit goes to Police Community Support Officer Rhiann Cummins. She's run a hate crime initiative in the Lampwood Major area, together with a hate crime officer, Marius Dixon, and held talks there about the different strands and different hate crime categories there are, and advising the public. They're mainly putting our message across of treating people with respect and dignity, but also advising them about the various offences that can be committed concerning various hate crime offences, which have now become statutes. Okay, further arrests that have taken place. This is a national initiative now. It's not really been on the agenda with the police at the top of the agenda for some years, with the amount of demand we have concerning. We do deal with a lot of mental health, a lot of calls that not necessarily it should be dealt with by the police, but we are in a situation where we are helping our partners a lot. But we've got in a situation nationally where shoplifting offences have gone further down the sort of the chain in terms of being our priority, and that this is something that's been highlighted nationally, and we have put initiatives locally in place now in Cardiff and Barry and the Vale, where we are targeting prolific shoplifters. So throughout the December period, there are some good arrests being made for persons who've been involved in a number of shoplifting offences. A chap by the name of Courtney Poutney, he was arrested and charged with 20 offences of shoplifting. Another individual name is Sammy Camilleri, charged with 7 offences and remanded in custody, again shoplifting offences. I've mentioned already the name of the chap. We've managed to make a successful arrest for someone who was wanted for a number of months by us for a very serious DV-related, domestic violence-related matter, whose name is Tristan Winton. And I mentioned previously the credit went to Jake Rawler for the work that he has done. Some proactive work which has been done by the neighbourhood policing teams. A chap by the name of Callum Giles was arrested in possession of a substantial amount of Class A drugs as a result of a warrant which was executed. And he's been charged and remanded in custody. And we've also seized a vehicle from him. Only recently, last week, we managed to secure the arrest of 2 individuals. This followed an initiative by our officers from the neighbourhood policing team, where they worked in partnership with the traffic department, together with the police helicopter. And there was a pursuit that took place throughout Barry. Quite a dangerous pursuit at times, but it obviously was managed by specialist traffic officers. where they managed to eventually stop the vehicle, and 2 individuals were detained and arrested and charged with driving offences. And there was also drugs within the vehicle as well, which were seized. So 2 individuals come into custody in relation to that. So it's a successful month throughout the Christmas period. A number of community initiatives have taken place together with crime initiatives as well. So grateful for any questions at all from the panel.
Thank you very much, Gareth. You've had a busy time, but a successful time as well. Do I have any questions? I've got Councillor Nikki Parry. Would you like to ask your question first, Nikki?
Back, but my understanding is that you cover Barry and the sort of Western Vale, and I'm a councillor for Surrey, and my understanding is Penarth, Dinas and Surrey are covered by Cardiff Bay, but it would be feedback from those particular areas we would be interested in as well. I understand it's a different inspector that deals with Penarth, Dinas and Surrey out of Cardiff Bay. Although we appreciate the information from Barry and the lower part of the Vale, obviously we're interested in what's going on in our particular areas in Penarth, Surrey and Dinas Powys. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Inspector Abby Biddle is in charge of the Surrey area, Penarth and Cardiff Bay. That is another sector. I understand that Abby was had a meeting last night with the Penarth Town Council last night and gave updates there. So she sends a report. She can't be here this evening. She's already done one meeting last night. But we do work in. I do work in close partnership with Abby and the Penarth and the Cardiff Bay teams. If there's any questions or anything you want to raise with myself concerning Surrey or the wider area of Penarth, I may have the answers for you. If not, I'll get back and give you the answers at a later date.
Yeah, the main thing for us recently has been the spate of cars being broken into in Surrey Village. That's been quite an issue.
I am aware.
Via South Wales Listens as well, but apparently there's been a lot of cars broken into in the village recently.
Yeah, I am aware of the autocrime offences that have occurred in Surrey. It is something that it's been explored in terms of CCTV house-to-house opportunities and investigative opportunities. At the moment, from my understanding, there's been no arrests made, but it's something that it has been looked at in terms of evidential opportunities. So it is ongoing. I'll speak to Abby tomorrow morning. She's quite very proactive, Abby, and certainly spikes in the area in terms of crime. She will try and get a grip of and try and push those initiatives forward. So I'll speak to Abby tomorrow, and perhaps she can send some correspondence out to you as to any progress that has been made.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Asprey, would you like to come in?
Hello, thank you, Inspector Childs. I would just like to ask about the speed awareness that you mentioned you have been doing in one school, and I wonder if you could roll that out with the 2 schools we have in Dinas Powys.
Again, Dinas Powys, that's something they could do in Dinas Powys, but Dinas Powys is not my area. Again, that would come over to Abby Biddle. It's just across the border, unfortunately. But yeah, the the initiatives have been run by the police community support officers, and they use the handheld devices. So it's not an exhaustive amount of work that they do. It's something they can set up quite quickly, and on occasions use and get school children involved just in those initiatives. But yes, that's something that can be done over in Dinas Powys, and I'll mention that to Abby. But the primacy of that will be Abby Biddle as opposed to myself. But I'll certainly mention it and push it with her.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Councillor Wilson, would you like to ask your question, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks so far for what you said, Gareth. I appreciate your area. It's not the whole of the Vale Glamorgan, and I understand because obviously you operate slightly differently operational as comparison with the Vale Council area. And I was present at the meeting of the Town Council yesterday where Inspector Biddle gave her presentation, which as usual is very excellent, very thorough and very detailed, very much like yours, to be honest, Gareth, today. And it's very appreciative. And what's so similar is the kind of crimes that are occurring in the Vale Glamorgan per se, notably an increase in commercial crime, which is a real concern amongst our traders. And I know that there are issues. Some of it is, I'm sorry to say, is that there's still, and it is a perception, it's not just perception, it's reality. And I am touching wood when I'm speaking. We live in a relatively low crime area. And I know there are parts of the Vale which are not, but mostly we are, and it's mostly a safe area. But I'm afraid that some traders are now starting to wake up that the fact is, they are vulnerable because they haven't got additional security features, which has been very common in the urban areas, in town centres of most of the UK. But they're now waking up to the fact they need this additional security. And I think it's very important. I know the firefighters do a lot of proactive security stuff. And I think South Wales Police no doubt do. But I think it's important that perhaps we as members emphasise security a bit more so people are more aware of it. I also think that my second point was obviously it might be good bearing in mind that we have Landock, Sully, Dinas, Penarth and Lavernock, Maxtonley potentially as well, all on the call. And it might be good to get alternative. I'm not suggesting that every meeting, but maybe maybe once a year we get Inspector Biddle to do a presentation to us in that area, and obviously she can liaise with you, Gareth, about the Western Vale.
Sure.
Just to be a bit sensible, because otherwise, I'm concerned that Inspector Biddle may spend an awful lot of time going around a lot of the community councils, and that's very time consuming. I understand they go into main towns like Penarth or anywhere else, but some of the other areas, it may be good use of her time because I appreciate how busy you all are.
Sure. That's noted. In terms of retail theft and security of retail businesses, we did have in the Penarth area a spate of commercial burglaries that had taken place, and various persons have been arrested for those offences. It's not always been the case with some evidential difficulties of those individuals have been charged, but it is particularly the commercial burglaries very high on our agenda to make sure that we throw resources at that, look at it forensically, look at the house-to-house opportunities, the CCTV opportunities, and look to make sure that we are providing that extra knowledge and security advice as well for those premises that can, as you say, be vulnerable, particularly if they're in areas where they're not supported by CCTV or other street lighting, for instance. They may be vulnerable. So we are doing the necessary work to support those premises in terms of their security and in terms of their safety. But yes, I take your point. It's something myself and Abby can do and can get together, and perhaps we can do a few meetings where we'll both be present and give out updates. But I'll certainly discuss that with Abby, and we'll find a way forward with that, definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. That was a very good idea. And if we've got the cooperation of Gareth, then I think that would be helpful and it would cover all our areas, wouldn't it? Could I ask Councillor Perks to ask her question, please?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to just say thank you for the feedback on the work that was undertaken around shoplifting over the Christmas period. I wondered whether you said that you concentrate a lot on Halton Road. I wonder if there was any other areas within sort of Barry that had issues with shoplifting over that period, or sort of continuing now. Also, the other thing I know that previously we've talked about antisocial behaviour, and there was real issues with antisocial behaviour sort of last summer and stuff like that, and whether there's any update on that, whether it's quietened down or whether it's still ongoing. So thank you.
Yeah, the antisocial behaviour is something that has been raised by the shopkeepers in Halton Road. We did have a problem there going back certainly a couple of months ago, leading up to the Christmas period. There are a number of individuals. We know the individuals involved. They're all around age between 14 to 16 years. So it's difficult dealing with the individuals on occasions. They're just involved in antisocial behaviour, and because of their age, our disposals and how we deal with them is low level at times. But there is a couple of individuals who are ringleaders there. And we've identified who they are, and they've been dealt with. And we've gone through periods where we get out of court disposals because of their age, and we've exhausted all them. They've been given plenty of opportunities to conform. The necessary interaction has taken place with their parents, and unfortunately that hasn't worked. So we are in the process of going through court proceedings with them where individuals have been charged. I mentioned the one individual who's well known as one of the prominent leaders, a chap by the name of Levi Acti, and another chap by the name of sorry, his name escapes me at the moment. The second chap, but he's sort of his lieutenant, shall we say? But we've also made arrests concerning him as well. So it's ongoing. I think we are more on top of the antisocial behaviour in Halton Road, but once you get on top of a particular area and you sort of disperse, you end up dispersing the problem on. And what's happened then? We get more antisocial behaviour in the Barry area towards the waterfront where Morrison's is, and some of the residents there, and it's an area of focus for us at the moment. So we're dispersing the problem, but it's gone on to another area, and again we got to focus on that area. So it's ongoing. It's ongoing, and we are dealing with these young lads as best as we can. We identify the ringleaders. We got them out of the equation, and the more sort of they are two individuals who are starting to get involved in other serious crime as well. So they are very much on our radar, and we are looking to proactively police them and deal with the problems of antisocial behaviour at the same time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ian Perry, would you like to ask your question, please?
Hi, good evening. The text working now? I can see myself. That should be working okay then. Hi, Gareth. Yeah, in previous meetings of this committee, I've raised the website of the South Wales Police, and I'm pleased to see that after me nagging for about 4 or 5 years, that the website has now been updated. So thank you for getting that done. There's been a few issues, and within my community, we're having a new school built in St Nicholas, and ISG, the contractor, has been in breach of a lot of planning regulations, particularly concerning where they park their vehicles. So we've had situations where residents can't even get cars past the parked vehicles, never mind a fire engine. And so I tried contacting the police, and I was told that the police didn't have any vehicles available, and therefore were not allowed to attend, and were struggling to get anywhere where they couldn't get on a bus service. Now, obviously, with my second hat, I cover Llancarvan and St George's and St Bride's and Llantrydid. But even within St Nicholas and Bonvilleston, we have areas that are not very accessible by public transport. So I'm just wondering what can be done to ensure that in future, should an incident arise and we need to have police presence, you actually have vehicles so that the police can attend? And that would be my first question.
Yeah, there shouldn't be a problem with vehicles. There are vehicles, certainly in the Vale, in Lambwood Major, there are vehicles that are used regularly by the officers there. There were going back a couple of weeks ago, a couple of vehicles off the road. They go to the doctor hospital for vehicles in the police, but we managed to secure some other vehicles in the meantime. So, in terms of St Nicholas, then, if there are problems, the building workers there and the many sort of vehicles that are using in the course of the contractors there, if they are blocking the road, that's something I gave my sergeant in the Vale of Glamorgan, Chris Thomas, who's very proactive. I can mention it to him. If worst case scenario, we are committed with other matters at the time, then it's something we can resolve sooner rather than later. And if no one's when there's opportunities just to drop someone off and public transport as well. And I know the police community support officers, they regularly travel throughout the Vale, and they do use public transport in order to get around, so they're not using police vehicles or sort of on a daily basis and potentially tying them up. So we do parade with 4 neighbourhood police constables. So there's always sufficient staff that should be available. However, because of the nature of the geographical area that we cover, we cover Barry, but we also cover as far as Ogmore by Sea as well, which is a huge geographical area. So it is as a rule, with the neighbourhood policing team, which are based in Llantwit, they quite often get involved in immediate responses in the Vale area because of the time that it takes officers to travel from Barry into the Vale area. Now, don't get me wrong, if the Barry officer's already in the Vale area, they will go. But a lot of the time, the vehicles and staff in Llantwit Major, who parade out of Llantwit Major, could be tied up with some of the other incidents that are going on, which are deemed to be grade 1 cause, emergency related cause. But I certainly take your point. If we have a problem with roads being blocked and congestion happening, then we should be dealing with it. And I'll certainly get on to Chris and explain that point to him. And it may be the case that we have someone out on foot, a community support officer out on foot, who can then just walk the area and interact with the various contractors there, and to get them to sort of park their vehicles in more in better areas where they're not going to obstruct the road so much. So, but that's something I'll look into.
Yeah, because it was chaos. I mean, later on, ISG needed to move their own vehicles, and all their vehicles disappeared. And they put a notice around to some residents, a wonderful notice saying, safety notice, please read and comply with this notice to help prevent the resources of the emergency services being called. Well, as it happened, they did call the police, and within 20 minutes of them calling the police, 4 police officers turned off to move a resident. And it was probably targeted because the resident had left 3.7 metres between the curb and where they were parked, which most people get through. And the police officers said something kind of ridiculous, that a fire engine wouldn't be able to get past. Now, we'd had 4 or 5 weeks of not being able to get our cars past the contractors, and now we've been told that 3.7 metres isn't enough space for a fire engine. And you're like, well, how wide is a fire engine? Because the road up there is 3.2 metres wide. They also left a vehicle that was connected to the school, leaving about 3 metres for the contractor to get past. So they managed to get past that. So it does seem that ISG were using the police resource to actually target residents. If we can get 4 officers out, if a big company can get 4 officers out in 20 minutes, why can't an elected representative get an officer out the same week?
Yeah, I take your point, and that's something I'll look into. I like to think that the in terms of any obstruction or in terms of any parking there, it was dealt with discretion rather than sort of fines or anything like that. But look, it's a problem that you've highlighted to me. I'll speak to Chris Thomas, who's a sergeant there, and the company itself. We'll go along and I'll get him to go along and have a chat with the company in terms of what they're doing in terms of they can't be obstructing the area and causing sort of hassle for the other residents in the area, and it affects their quality of life. And I get where you're coming from. And this building work is going to go on for a significant period of time, and so it's therefore necessary that whilst that work is ongoing, they're respectful and courteous towards the residents in the area, and to be mindful of any obstruction that they can cause with double parking vehicles, for instance. So I'll get Chris to look into it. And it's Mr. Perry, is it? I can give you an update. Perhaps in a week or so, as to what progress we make. Is that okay?
Yeah, the work now is literally complete, so they are beginning to move off site. So I don't think the problem is there. The problem has been there throughout the autumn period, November and December. It was quite chronic, and you couldn't move, and they're parked both sides. So you could squeeze a car past some of it, but anything bigger than a car, I personally had to travel to junction 33 to pick up a delivery because the driver couldn't get in with a delivery. So you couldn't get deliveries in, you couldn't get the fire engine in, you couldn't get an ambulance in, you could squeeze a car past it. It was chaos, and we didn't get sufficient police support in the time requested when it was a problem. And
okay. I apologise for that. That's something I'll look into. We'll try and make efforts. I appreciate the work is coming to an end there. I've only been in this post for around about 5 months at present, so I don't know the minutiae of actually everything that's going on because it's a big area to cover. But as I say, I'll speak to the sergeant there who's in charge of the Vale, and I'll discuss the matter with him. Look, I apologise that's caused disruption amongst yourselves and residents. That shouldn't have happened. And you've got my details here. By all means, drop me an email if these things should happen again, and I can deal with it as promptly as possible, and try and get resources for those areas and try and improve the situation sooner rather than later.
Great.
Thank you very much for doing that. Yeah, okay. Any other questions from anybody, please?
I've just got one more, very quick one, and it's regarding highways again. Obviously, we do have a road noise issue in St Nicholas and Bonwolston, and in places we have poor compliance with the speed limit. Now, I've got traffic lanes at Tree Hill, which is the hamlet by St Nicholas, which is 6.5 metres wide, and at the narrowest point they are 4.5 metres wide. Now, the parallel M4 has traffic lanes that are 3.2 metres, 3.3 metres, 3.2 metres and 3 metres if you're travelling from junction 34 to 33. Now, if traffic lanes that width are fine for motorways, why do we have traffic lanes in a village that are double that? And there was some research published in the United States of America in December last year, which said that traffic lanes that are 10 feet wide are safer than those that are 12 feet wide. And that agrees with previous research in the United States, but also with research that went into the manual for streets and manual for streets 2. Now, in this area, there is money available. So often we get told there is no money to do this. There is money in St Nicholas from S106 money. And we have these 6.5, 5 metre wide lanes, and a 3.2 metre wide lane would be sufficient. It's what Manual for Streets says. Perhaps the police and elected representatives should be looking at traffic lane widths as a means of reducing traffic speeds and improving safety, because it also makes crossing the road a lot easier. If you're crossing a road that's just the mass now 6.2 meters as opposed to 10 meters now, and I have residents in their 90s. I have a resident who is partially sighted, a resident who is deaf. We do occasionally get traffic diverted off the M4 along the A48, but that's occasional. And why do they need to have wider traffic lanes going through a village than they do when they're going on a motorway? That doesn't make sense. And the people behind the money for streets and money for streets too say it doesn't make sense. The money's there. Why can't we do something about it? And perhaps the police, we can enforce forever, and we've been enforcing for 40, 50 years speed limits. But if we don't actually get the geometry of the road correct, we're inducing speed. Whereas if we get the geometry and the layout of the road better, we know that we can reduce speeds naturally.
Okay, Councillor Perry, I think this is a highways rather than a police matter. So I think we need to move this on.
Speed limits. I would think police enforce speed limits, and we can put go safe there every single day of the week, and as soon as they go away, everyone returns to normal. So it is a police, and it's wasting police resources that we're having to use go safe somewhere, where if we can simply reduce the traffic lane width, we can put the go safe van somewhere else.
The only thing I would say in relation to that, and I get your point about the widths of lanes on motorways and the widths of lanes then on in rural areas or built up areas. I'm not an expert on this by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a keen cyclist myself. I cycle every day, and I live in Cardiff, and I work out of Barry, and I cycle over there every day. There is an initiative as well to encourage people out of vehicles and to cycle, and there's also an initiative as well for cycle lanes to be built in various areas. One of the initiatives of slowing people down, particularly in rural areas where you're bringing in the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, there is to slow the traffic down and also encourage people as well to feel safer to go out and use bikes. I'm not too sure about the argument of decreasing the width of lanes, because as a cyclist, if you start decreasing the width of lanes, you feel less secure and less safe. So there's many arguments, I'm sure, you've done your research. There's many arguments for and against what you're saying, but there isn't, certainly from my understanding, an initiative to allow people to cycle and encourage people to cycle, encourage people out of vehicles, reduce the carbon footprint, etc. So I'm not too sure how that will fare when you have an initiative to reduce the actual width of roads, which may have a detrimental effect upon people who want to cycle. That's the only point I would raise in relation to that.
Research has found that the 3.2 was safer for cyclists as well. Plus, it creates space, and we need active travel infrastructure in this part of the world, and we need space, and therefore we need to have what they might call a road diet. If we have narrower traffic lanes, then there is space for wider footways and for cycleways as well. Okay,
thank you, Councillor Perry. If we move on now, because we have got other topics and questions to be asked. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mark Wilson, please.
Yeah, I just think that's what Councillor Perry said. If you can drop me an email, as I am the Cabinet Member for Highways, as one of my jobs, as you probably realise, then that would be very useful. But I think you're right. We can have a long debate about the width of roads, and some will say some are safer than others. And I think, Gareth, you made a very good response to that, because widening roads sometimes encourages more active travel, and that can only be a good thing.
Okay, Gareth, thank you ever so much. We've taken up a lot of your time this evening, and we do all appreciate listening to you and hearing that all you have to offer for us. Could I have a Vale member, please, to thank and note Inspector Child's presentation this evening, please?
Happy to do so, and thank you very much, Gareth. I thought you did an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Bye-bye. Moving on to agenda item 5. Have we got Group Manager Mr. John Trahan with us this evening?
Hello, Chair. I'm afraid Mr. Trahan is not with us yet this evening. So my recommendation would be to carry on with your agenda, if that would be okay. And obviously, if he does join us, I will make sure that you're aware.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. And would members mind if we move to agenda item 7? Phil Chappell is taking this item, but he has another meeting to go to. So would everybody be happy if we moved to agenda item 7, please? And are you there, Phil?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Good.
There we are. I forgot to press the red button. Apologies. Thank you.
There we go. You go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you all. Good evening, all. Just a request, really. We're inviting a representative from a community council to become a member of our Strong Communities Fund evaluation panel. We've had this in place for several years now, and it's going really well. Many years ago, the council established a fund that's been rolling, that has been designed to support community organisations to become more sustainable. So we have membership on the committee from town councils. We also have membership from the local CDC, GVS, Natural Resources Wales, the Waterloo Foundation, and we had a representative from, I believe it was Colwinston Community Council before, and he stepped down as a councillor. So I think the feeling was that it's very important that we have representatives at both the town and a community council level. So we're asking whether a representative from a community council could be nominated for the position. I mean, in terms of, it's worth me saying about the amount of time needed for this. It's a case that we generally have about 2 panel meetings a year because the funding is normally oversubscribed and fully allocated. They tend to kind of happen in the spring. And then again in the winter if we have funding left and it's allocated. So it's a case of reviewing applications and ahead of the meeting, and then coming to those meetings, and then we have a discussion. Meetings generally last about 2.5 hours, and we go through the projects in detail. The smaller projects are the very small projects are kind of recommended by officers to the panel for consideration, and the larger ones we go into more detail. And I think often it's quite a good mix, really, because you'll sometimes have members of the panel going, can we bring in a bit of funding from here, but perhaps one of the funders from the panel can actually support us. The lottery are involved in it, so it's been a nice model that we'd like to continue, where we're working both with partners and local people to determine the projects. And often sometimes those projects go off and get funding from elsewhere, so it's managing to lever in funding. But I really would welcome involvement from a community council if there was the will. We've had some really good participation in the past.
Lovely, thank you, Phil. Oh, I've got a hand up from Councillor Bonner. Would you like to go ahead and ask your question, Councillor?
Thank you, Councillor. Chair, I'm a community councillor with Llanfire Ward, and I would welcome the opportunity to be considered for this panel. It sounds very interesting work.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much. That's lovely. Have I got any other? Councillor Payne, would you like to come forward?
No, I was just going to second that.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so we have one nomination and we have a seconder for it. Thank you. Do we have any other nominations for this post? Which is quite a nice post, really, isn't it? Giving money away. So that would be lovely. I don't see any other hands up. So with that in mind, Phil, Councillor Bonner is duly elected.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Bonner. We'll be in touch. We'll give you a briefing of give you the lowdown on everything. So that's fantastic. Thanks ever so much.
Lovely. Thank you, Phil. Okay, and if we now go to agenda item number 6, strengthening our communities and work to tackle poverty and the current cost of living crisis. We've got Tom Bowring and Helen Moses to present this. So Tom, shall I leave it to you at the moment? Tom, we can't hear you at the moment. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
If you want, Chair, I can cover the report while Tom sorts out his connection, if everyone can hear me okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So the report in front of committee this evening is a reference from our Corporate Performance and Resources Scrutiny Committee from last year. It's also being considered by our Governance Audit Committee and will be considered by the Voluntary Sector and Joint Liaison Committee later in at the end of this month. It's quite a detailed report and it covers quite a range of different things. So I will just try and just give you a quick overview of that before there's any questions with regard to it. In terms of the nature of the report itself, we brought a lot of different things together within the Wirren report because we felt that they were very connected and it would be useful for us to take quite an integrated approach to responding to the Audit Wales reports and also to be able to take forward some of the work that we were keen to take forward within the Council. So the report itself provides some of the progress updating on the work that's being undertaken on cost of living, which is one of the critical challenges within the Council's annual delivery plan. The report also provides some of the detail around those Audit Wales reports and the response to the recommendations. And with those Audit Wales reports, 3 of those reports were all Wales reports. There were a series of reports that were undertaken looking at poverty. So the first one, Time for Change, Poverty in Wales, was very much more of a strategic report and was the first one. The following 2 focused firstly on social enterprises and their role within that agenda and how local authorities across Wales could work with them more closely. And then the third one was more about community resilience and self-reliance. And we had also had a local Vale specific report on work with the third sector a while ago, which we hadn't been able to progress our response to as quickly as we'd hoped to due to capacity. And therefore it was felt that actually in looking at the reports, there was an opportunity to bring the work together in terms of how we responded. The report also details, as I say, some of our work with regard to cost of living and a range of activities. And also highlights the need for us to review the compact with Glamorgan Voluntary Services and also the Town and Community Council Charter. So as I say, there were quite a lot of recommendations in that report to the Scrutiny Committee, and then within the report quite a lot of information, both in terms of the context of the Vale in terms of some of the information around some of the issues around cost of living, but also some of the work that was already being undertaken with regards to our response to the cost of living crisis in the Vale. So in terms of some of the information, as I say, just within the report, we've covered the Audit Wales reports, and in the appendix to the report, we've got some of our response to the specific recommendations of each of those reports. So the report's details that, which was again sort of a consideration of the Scrutiny Committee and particularly for our Governance and Audit Committee. And then we provide some of the context about the work the Council is doing around the cost of living work, and that's being undertaken across the Council by a range of different services. Within the report itself, then, we also took the opportunity to highlight particularly some of the work that was happening around food insecurity and the different work that was happening across different areas of the Vale. So you'll see within the report there's reference to the work particularly in Llanthwit Major around some of the work there that's very much a partnership project. And we also highlighted the work that had been undertaken around warm spaces where funding from Welsh Government had been used particularly to support organisations across the Vale to provide those warm spaces last winter. In 2.29, we then talk in a bit more detail about the cost of living reserve that's been established and how that has been used to support some of the work. So, for example, for contributing to the work of citizens' advice, but also for some of the work undertaken through our schools, particularly over the summer holidays with free school meal support there. So as I say, within the report, we've covered quite a range of issues from the recommendations in the Audit Wales report, as well as updating on the work of the council on that work and what we're looking to do with that cost of living reserve. Moving then to sort of page 13 of the report and paragraph 2.31, that's really where we pulled together the reason why we've pulled all of this different information together into that one report, and how we're looking to take that integrated response to looking at those different recommendations, which are very much about the relationship of the council working with other sectors in terms of taking the work forward, but also how we can build on that as part of our work at the development of the new corporate plan for 2025-2030 that we'll be commencing work on, and also the council's reshaping programme, which is our approach to transformation as well. And again, very much seeing it's very much part and parcel of that is the relationship with the third sector and relationship with social enterprise and town and community councils. So within the report, we've detailed how we were looking to commission a third-party organisation, and we've commissioned Compass to work with us to undertake what we see as very important part in terms of the engagement work to support this integrated approach. Compass are going to be undertaking interviews with councils across the officers across the council in terms of sort of experience of working with different sectors and their sort of visions to the future with that, as well as speaking to social enterprise and third sectors. And we're also looking to them, there's be an email coming out shortly to town and community councils, also inviting them to be part of that work, so that Compass on our behalf can have those conversations with town and community councils about the work with the council and the experience of that relationship. And all of that will come together, as I say, to inform our new corporate plan, our transformation work, but also the work that we need to undertake to review our compact with GVS, but also a new town and community council charter. So it's very much kind of the start of those conversations and putting that work together. As I say, we wanted to bring it to this committee, as we see the town and community council relationship is very important as part of that work, and how we start to take that forward over the next few months. So I think Tom is now just going to pick up about a little bit more, and particularly the reshaping side of things. So I hand over to you, Tom.
Thank you very much indeed, Helen. Can I just check that you can hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you and see you. Thank you, Tom.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Chair. Thank you, Helen, for taking us through the report so far. I just wanted to give committee a little bit more of the context in terms of reshaping, and the Council's Cabinet this afternoon considered a report about the next steps in terms of the Council's transformation programme, and that really links to the work that Helen was talking about in terms of our new corporate plan for 2025 to 2030. One of the themes that is in that report is around strengthening communities, and we very much see this piece of work being an integral part of that in terms of starting the conversation about the different relationship that we have as an organisation with the third sector, with social enterprise, as Helen was talking about, and really importantly, town and community councils as well. So we were bringing the report that Helen's taken you through today for that kind of early information and engagement, to give you a heads up that this is the direction of travel, if you like, to also let you know that there will be those opportunities, and I'd really encourage as many colleagues from town and community councils as possible to take part in those focus groups with Compass. And also, Chair, we have put a recommendation in the Cabinet report this afternoon that the report on reshaping as a whole be referred to your committee in future. So we'll come back and we can spend a little bit more time talking about the different themes that are within that report itself. But we can perhaps, with your permission, circulate that ahead of the agenda so that town and community council colleagues have got early sight of it. Might be particularly useful ahead of the focus groups with Compass. So that was really all we were wanting to cover this evening, but obviously happy to take any questions that the colleagues may have.
Thank you, Tom. Does anybody have any questions? I see Councillor Cuddy. Would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Penarth Town Council's response to the ADP at all, but I was unaware, of course, this work going on. But in fact, what we've asked for is sort of absolutely relevant. We suggested that the charter be relooked at, reviewed, in particular in the light of the work being done by Audit Wales, and recognising that it hasn't been possible during COVID and other things to look at it seriously, but to put the resolve to deal with the charter within your annual development sort of delivery plan. We did. I chair a committee on One Voice Wales, the larger council committee, and we had the authors of the Together We Can report, which is the wider context, of course, at that committee, and they described the positive aspects you've outlined, you and Helen have outlined. I don't think you've sort of provided the sort of the crunch line or label they were developing, which was that principal councils, will have to let go, and that that you may and the sort of the financial crisis is influencing this. You'll have to let go to be facilitators rather than deliverers in some respects. Obviously, it'll be quite a small part of your general work, but very important for us in the community, and be very important to engage in these discussions, I think. They were also, reading the reports and having experience in other areas with Audit Wales, they're very unforgiving sometimes. They certainly have a go at town and community councils and their budget setting and reporting. And they were fairly unforgiving in terms of the way they described, and I'm sure, the Vale is probably ahead of the game, but very forgiving in how they described the challenges were. And some of the, they said there were barriers basically to this community resilience net model. I'll read some of the things out. They said, and they'd done a survey of the principal councils, the whole of in Wales, I think. They highlighted lack of skills, insufficient resources, limited joining up working, lack of strategic vision, etc., etc. And I'm sure that Compass and you are going to sort of deal with these the challenges which they highlighted, and I suppose we can all recognise, because your day-to-day work has been delivering stuff, and a little. I'm sure the Vale are probably ahead of things, as I know you've had this other interaction with their audit, but. I suppose in my time in the sector, I haven't noticed very much of this, networking really. There's good relationships with the principal council, but not this sort of deep sort of cooperation. And Compass obviously is about cooperation, I imagine. That's mine. And so I hope to see, an action in the annual delivery plan. That charters will be reviewed in a sort of very fundamental way as well, I would suggest. That's it.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Cuddy. And you could have written paragraph 2.8 of the Cabinet report this afternoon, which talks about the council, the Vale Council, becoming an enabler and facilitator rather than a direct provider of services in some instances, and the strengthening communities theme of that programme being about defining how the organisation interacts with our partners. And I know Helen, when she was describing the audit reports by Audit Wales, was talking about wanting to see these as a holistic package of work rather than us taking an action plan one by one. And the idea of that is that we do that fundamental rethinking of that relationship that we have with different sectors. And thank you for the recognition that we've got really good relationships. And I think that's where I'm really grateful to Town and Community Council colleagues, because I know that we can go into the work facilitated by Compass from a positive standing point, so we can start that conversation together. I'll certainly take on board the feedback in terms of wanting to see an ADP or an annual delivery plan action around reviewing the charters. It may well be that we look to bring that into one of the service plans, and that actually the work around the charters is actually part of the transformation programme rather than an action of itself. But I can provide you with assurance that this is a really fundamental piece of work that we want to do. And having spoken with Audit Wales colleagues this week, they're interested to see how we do in terms of taking these reports together as a package. I think elsewhere in Wales, colleagues are approaching it in slightly different ways, so it'll give us an opportunity to learn from one another. But thank you for the feedback, it's appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Cuddy. Councillor Hodges, I saw a hand up. Would you like to ask a question?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you and see you.
Brilliant, because I can't see anyone else. So the technology's not quite working for me, but thank you for that. I noticed from the press recently that I think it was Cheshire East and Hartlepool councils have gone to the town and community councils to ask for money to run some of their services. So when I saw we're going to rewrite the charter, I was a little bit concerned that this is a way for the Vale to go to the town and community councils to ask for money to run their services. And I hope for some reassurance that's not the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodges. I must admit, I've just been Googling Cheshire East to see what they've been doing, and I'll have a look in more detail. That's not the intention of this piece of work at all. This is really about starting a conversation about what does the Vale need to look like by 2030. So looking at our corporate plan, looking as an authority, what are we going to be able to do in terms of providing services, and indeed reflecting on some of the really great practice we've seen through the pandemic and since, where we've seen community groups, we've seen social enterprise, and we've seen town community councils stepping into spaces that perhaps previously they hadn't been involved in, and doing really, really fantastic work. I know Helen mentioned the Llanturn Major Food Project, and that's a really good example in my mind to how a collection of community groups, the town council there, alongside GVS and some statutory agencies, are working together collectively. And I think it's that kind of thing that we're looking at, as well as perhaps getting involved in providing some services that the unitary authority won't be in a position to do in the future. But we're certainly not starting from that starting point. What we are recognising is that we're all under significant pressures in terms of the resources we have available to us. That will mean that we need to find creative and innovative ways to work together to continue to provide those services. But the starting point is that constructive discussion as far as we're concerned. I hope that provides some assurance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any other hands, any other questions? I can't see any yellow hands on my screen, but we're all a bit new to this. So I can't see any hands at all. If anybody has had a problem after tonight's meeting, please email Amy and let her know of any difficulties, but hopefully it seems to have gone okay this evening. Tom, thank you very much, and Helen, thank you very much. Could I have somebody just to note the reference that has come from Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Wilson and Councillor Perks? Thank you both very much.
Yeah, we don't. Thank you.
Okay, Amy, I've just come back to agenda item 4. No, agenda item 5. Do we have group manager even? Group manager, Mr. John Trahan with us or not?
I'm afraid we don't, Chair, for this evening. So with your permission, I would recommend that obviously I will contact him on your behalf and ask that an extended update be provided at the next meeting. Would that be agreeable for you?
That's absolutely fine. Yes, thank you very much indeed. Right, I think we've got to the end of the end of our agenda then, one way or another. So can I just remind all town and community council representatives that request for consideration forms are available via Democratic Services should you wish to raise a matter for this committee to consider. And the next meeting of this committee is scheduled for the 18th of April. So, which leaves me to say good night to you all and thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening.